Good evening, good morning, and good night. Welcome to Inappropriate Radio. It's your host, Shauna. Let's get into this. Hi guys, I hope all is well. I'm outside right now, so if you hear any noises in the background, it's because I'm outside. Alright? We are going to be proceeding and moving forward to the periodic table. As discussed, this is going to be a series. And please, when we're in the middle of a series and then you see me just suddenly come up with a topic, just please ride with me, okay? This is how it's going down, okay? This is how the Most High wants this thing to be discussed. I don't have my tooth in, so I'm sorry if I sound a little crazy. And I'm a little hoarse, alright? Now, as discussed, the periodic table contains several elements, right? 118 so far. These 118 elements are basically, I would say, can be considered proof, if you will, that science and the research and just the overall perception and idea of life and science has evolved. And this periodic table is a great depiction of how far we've come, right? Now, when you think of life, you think of all these organisms, we think that we are so different. And we went over this. This is actually common knowledge. Everyone knows this. But for the sake of conversation and spirituality and just bringing things back home to the Creator, it's important that we have this discussion. Now, initially, I thought it was important to break down all of the elements by their groups, right? By the groups that they belong in. And, as we talked about, well, actually, we didn't talk about it. I wrote it down, it's in my notes. But, as we are going to go over, these elements have classes, right? According to their properties. So that's the atomic weight, the color, what they, their boiling point, what they can be reactive with and against. All of that good stuff, right? We're going to get into that a little more detailed. But when it comes to life in itself, as I sat down and, thought about how we were going to flow through this conversation, I thought it would be important to first start with the basic building blocks, right? The 4 elements that most 96% of living organisms have, right? Which is oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, and nitrogen, right? And of course, each organism is going to have more of one than the other, but just, in layman's terms, basically, if you're living in this dimension, then you definitely have these 4 elements in you somewhere. The other 4% of organisms also have phosphorus, sulfur, calcium, and potassium. Now, again, this percentage of living things is ranging from 96 to 99%, leaving the remainder being from anywhere from 4 to 1% of other living things that require, the calcium, the potassium, and the sulfur and the phosphorus, right? Now, these elements are important, obviously, and I wanted to make sure we realized how important by leading right with this, and they might be probably the most important 4 in the table right now. Now, on a basic level, we could easily just look up these these elements and find out what they are, where they come from, where we can find them, and all of that good stuff. But then when you go into the chemistry or the more complex side of it, you will see that, again, these elements are very important. Now, because tonight I don't have my notes in front of me, I cannot actually go into what I wanted to go into, but I am being led to just pretty much go into the most abundant, traces of these elements and where they can be found. Now, remember, these are living organisms on Earth, right? Organisms that are Earth bound. Now, if you look up oxygen and you see, anything basic about it is 65% of the human body, right? It's the most abundant element in Earth's atmosphere. So this, again, highly important. Without oxygen, we won't live. We won't be able to breathe, right? Now, what's most interesting is that this 65% in the human body, most of that oxygen is coming from water, right? Not even oxygen itself, which is what? The Earth is what? Mainly water. Just trying to make some connections here, right? Now, let's go over to carbon. Without carbon, nothing lives, okay? This is the basis for all life on Earth. Whether it's a tree, whether it's a dog, whether it's a human, whether it's a hybrid species, right? Carbon, the atoms are needed to bond with oxygen and nitrogen in order for life to be sustained on Earth, right? And what happens is when these carbon atoms bond with other elements, they form these like really long chains, and it provides the physical and chemical structure, for living organisms, like building our proteins and our DNA, right? The actual links for our genetic code, right? Now, again, this is not exclusive to anything, right? We all need these elements to live. Now, again, there's so many different ways to go into this and look this up, but I just wanted to make sure, I'm sorry because I was reading something. I just wanted to make sure, we got into this before moving forward. Nitrogen, it's odorless and it's non-reactive, and it makes up 78% of the Earth's atmosphere. Now we're going to get into the properties and all of that good stuff, right? But as far as the living, the human body, right? Nitrogen is used to make up the amino acids. Now, this is for DNA and RNA. Other species on Earth require this nitrogen element in a more, I guess you would say, fixed reactive form. I guess what that would mean is basically it's more suited to that particular organism, whereas in human beings it's basically it's going to be more complex, right? There's a lot of different elements going on in the table, but remember, these four: carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, right? We're starting out with those particularly. Now, when you go to hydrogen, not to be confused with helium, because a lot of people do that. I don't know why. When we are, looking at, at the table. Now, let's go over to hydrogen. Hydrogen is the lightest element, right? Also can be turned into a gas that is also odorless and colorless as well as tasteless, right? Now, when it comes to the world itself, hydrogen is used to generate electricity, power, and heat. Okay? So the same thing that is used in the world to create heat is in all living things. Just keep that in mind. Now, as far as the element in the atmosphere, it's the most abundant element in the atmosphere, and it's about 75% of the mass of the universe, of this universe and Earth. Remember, we discussed that there are several galaxies and several universes. Remember, the word uni is one, so our universe, this dimension that we are in right now, right? And we're going to get into that a little more detailed oriented, but just for the sake of this conversation, right? Now, as far as the human body is concerned, there is it actually is not toxic, right? It's lighter than the air, and a lot of people think it is, but I'm not sure why, right? But when you come over to the body, right, it's actually very important for water and other organic compounds. So the molecular structure is needed in order for water to do what it does. Because why? We need hydrogen to make water, to have water. Without hydrogen, we don't have water, right? Now, again, a gas can be used as fire, and we're going to go into the different classes and groups, but I just wanted to make the connection. It is not a coincidence that we as living things all have the same compounds. We're all made up of the same things. So to me, that is the suggestion that we come from the same source. No matter how we look. If you want to put that same concept and thought process into human day-to-day life, same thing. We look different. We may even smell different or react to different things in the environment, but we all come from the same source. So, like I said, don't listen to me. This is Googleable information. This is common knowledge, nothing crazy. This isn't like rocket science, right? We all require the same things to live. Only 1 to 4% of other living things in this dimension needs other elements, but those 4 elements are absolutely necessary in order for life to be sustained here. So before we go, I want to leave you with this question. What makes these elements so important? Why these 4 elements? So we're going to go into it the next episode, and we're also going to go into the other elements that are required for the other 1 to 4% of living organisms. And I'm sorry because I was reading at the same time because I didn't want to trip up on my words too much because I did have notes, but now I don't have them in my pocket. Yesterday I had them, but I wasn't in the right mindset to talk about it, and today I don't have the notes. So this topic is just pretty much an introduction, a formal introduction into the topic of the periodic table. And initially you would start out with the classes and the groups that these elements belong to, but let's just start out with something that's applicable, that we can remember, because it's something that's applicable to each of us, right? So yeah, I'm gonna end it there. I love you guys. I hope your week is going good. I hope y'all are representing y'all babies that are graduating. I hope y'all are prepared for the summer. I hope y'all are fasting and praying on what to do with y'all kids. I told y'all I'm going to be tutoring very soon. Once I get myself settled in, I will be doing some tutoring. I love y'all. I hope y'all are drinking y'all water, eating y'all fruit, y'all vegetables, minding y'all business, and sipping y'all tea. because it's free. I love y'all. Peace.